Okay, so I went ahead and measured my S13 brake pedal. It is about 2 3/4, and the clutch pedal is 2 1/2, which I guess the clutch pedal doesn't matter because whatever, but this is just about 2 3/4. So I went ahead and measured from here to here, 2 3/4. I'm going to take a hacksaw and cut that off right now. I'm going to put something under it so don't get a bunch of metal shavings on my carpet. But yeah, pretty simple as far as this goes. Maybe I'll film it and see, you can see, but there's really nothing to it. Just hacksaw it. I basically had to put my foot on it because it wasn't, the thing was flopping around too much. As you can see, the cut wasn't even, so I'm going to have to do something about that. Okay, so I went ahead and cut my pedal rubber thing down and more or less to where I wanted, and I marked it there, so I'm going to try it with a Dremel, a rotary tool, I guess. Let's see if this works. I'm not sure if I'll be able to really... Alright, here we go again. Alright, so after a little more dremeling, a little more vice gripping, this is what I came up with. It's a little jagged, but this pedal cover should cover it, and it does. It's not perfect. This is probably just going to be temporary until I go ahead and get a proper manual brake pedal, but obviously, as you can imagine, in the US they're hard to come by, so this is what I've got. This will work fine for me, so there we go. Alright, and then to unbolt that box, it's actually 12 millimeter. You can kind of see the head of it through there. You might not be able to see it on the camera, but if you look through there, you can see the head of it, so you can know your socket will go onto it. And that's going to unbolt the little bracket that it's unclipped to, so I'm going to unbolt that and then unclip the thing and get out of the way, because I tried to put the pedal in just now with that there. It's not going to go. I might even have to mess with that HVAC vent a little bit, move it out of the way. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take that thing down and then see where we go from there. Alright, so once I unbolted that, this is the nasty thing that came down. You can see it's got a little speaker on it. This is pretty sure what does the beeping noise when you're in reverse, so I definitely don't want that hooked up anymore. And then now, I'll show you what we're kind of working with up here. Not a whole lot of room, and that vent might be in the way. I might have to move it a little bit to see, but I'm going to try to maneuver these pedals. These pedals are from an S13, so they're not exactly probably going to be a perfect fit, so we'll see how that goes. Only thing I don't really see is a spot to secure the top of it, because normally there'll be a bolt that goes through the top as well. Like the pedal will be like this, bolted to the firewall, and then another one up here to brace it, I guess. I don't know if that one's going to be able to have anything to bolt to, but we'll try it and see what happens. Alright, I'm working on fitting it in there right now. Problem I'm coming across is while I have it up in there, this part seems to hit the HVAC little tubing right there, so from what I can tell, I won't need this for this application. This is originally, I believe, where the cruise control shut-off switch went, which this car doesn't have cruise control anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and lop this off with the reciprocating saw, and then that should give me enough room to go in, because I'm going to double check again before cutting it, but it sure looked like that is what was giving me the problem. So I've read that it takes a little bit of work to get in, so I'm thinking I just have to chop that a little bit, and I should be able to get in there, because I really am off by like not even an inch. I just need a little bit of more play in there, and I think cutting this off will give me what I need. Alright, so I went ahead and lopped that part off, and I'm going to climb up under there and see what happens. There's no way I can show you in there because that'd be in the way, but I'll show you once it's mounted up if I get to that point. Let's see if what I did helped. Alright, so that part wasn't enough right there, so I went ahead and lopped the top piece off too, which just went like that. So now I'm going to try to do it. It's really annoying. Recommend getting the right pedal if you can, but I was kind of stuck. Couldn't find one for sale anywhere. So yeah, this is what I'm reduced to. Alright, so I got it in. As you can see, the spacing is kind of weird since I'm still on an automatic brake pedal, because I think the manual ones might shift over a little. I don't know, or either way. This sits a lot higher, which is just going to have to be that way, at least until I can find a proper one. But cutting off that last lop did do it, or lopping off that last piece. Now let's look at it from the firewall. So actually it's not even flush yet, so it won't stick out probably that much once it's actually bolted up. So I'm going to go ahead and get the clutch master on there and try to bolt this together and see what happens. Okay, so I got them pushed in, so now I'm going to go ahead and slide the master on there and bolt it up. Alright, so I got the master cylinder in there. I don't have it screwed in yet or bolted in, but it's there. It was kind of a struggle. I had to get my wife to help me out with it. She wiggled this on while I held the bracket in place. It's looking like the master or the clutch pedal is only going to be bolted on by those two bolts to the firewall. The part above it's too high up, so because the bracket isn't right for the car. So I'm hoping this will at least work to get me by for a while until I come across a good deal on an actual Skyline, clutch pedal assembly. But I'm sure I'll probably end up just getting used to however it feels. But I'm just thinking the clutch pedal feel might not be great. It might be a little floppy, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to go ahead and get the nuts on there, see how the pedal feels, and then go ahead and hook up my braided stainless steel line from there down to the slave cylinder, and then see if I can get my wife to help me bleed them as well. Alright, so I got the clutch master bolted up, actually, and then had to use this setup here because of the area it's in. It's really annoying. I had to get the bottom nut on, I had to move this line forward and then slide my hand under there. Actually ripped up my glove, but no big deal. So yeah, so I got that bolted up, so we're good there. Now I'm gonna get the stainless steel line, run that down, hopefully bleed this clutch. Right now, as we speak, I'm still waiting on my drive shaft to come in because S13 one did not show up. Today, an R32 one that I found online should be showing up, so hoping I'll be able to at least get this thing fired up and see the rear wheels move under a manual transmission. And this is the line that I bought. It was on eBay. It's by GK Tech. Apparently it's an Australian company. I also got my little transmission fork pivot ball thing from them as well. Same thing on eBay. So I'm going to go ahead and fit this bad boy up, and hopefully maybe I'll bleed the clutch and then still wait on my drive shaft, and then, but I'm pretty much done here at this point, getting there. So here we go. Alright, so I'm looking at it because it came with a banjo bolt, which I kind of wasn't expecting. I was just expecting a normal end like this on each side. But, so it's looking like this end is going to go to the slave cylinder, then this part will go into the master, and then this part obviously will bolt off of there. And one thing that I did notice that may be a bit of an issue is the fuel pressure regulator vacuum is right there. So I'm going to pop it off, hopefully not mess up the regulator, and then see if I can easily go back on. It should, but it looks like somebody's taped over it in the past, so it must be cracked, and as you can see some cracks in it, so it might be best just to replace that vacuum line. Maybe I'll do a little angle T on it so it gets a little more out of the way, but we'll see if it even is a problem. Might not be. Alright, and then to be able to get this line in there, I went ahead and took off the little, I don't even know what that one is, to be honest with you. That's a sensor that goes in there. I got plenty of room. Then I popped off the vacuum line going to the fuel pressure regulator, and so now I got plenty of room to slide the line in there, and the flare or the banjo bolt and everything in there, so should be okay there. Okay, so at this point I'm basically just waiting on the drive shaft. It says it's supposed to be here by 8 p.m., but it's a Saturday and it's USPS, so I'm guessing it's probably not going to be here today, so whatever. But I got everything back together. I got the clutch master there. I got it right down here on the new line going to the clutch slave cylinder. I got a bleed bottle there. Haven't bled it yet. I just did a couple pumps on it and it should be good. I'm gonna bleed it completely once I get a chance to later today. But here's how we're looking with the pedals. So you can see it's not even. It sits up a little high, but it'll be fine. It'll do the job for me. Still need to bleed it obviously, but there was a little bit of play in the S13 pedal. It was because the hole where the pin goes in for the clevis pin goes in onto the pedal from the master. It was really like oblong. It was like an oval instead of a circle, so it had been really worn down. So I got a nylon bushing, ground it down, and shoved it in there, and so now it's a lot more solid. Still got a tiny bit of play, but that's normal. That's just like my S13 over there, so fixed that issue. But yeah, right now I'm just without a drive shaft because it's still on the way here, but you can see no drive shaft. But the transmission is mounted up. It's got a solid bushing along with a aftermarket mount. It's actually what came with one of the transmissions that I bought. It was in a S13, so I think it's just like a swap mount or whatever, but it worked. Only 2 of the bolts lined up, so I'm probably end up getting an S13 one because I'm told those work just fine. You gotta flip them or something like that, so that's what I'm gonna go with. Alright, so I got my R32 drive shaft here. See, it looks a little concerning here because this carrier is much smaller than this one, which this has a big piece on it, so I'll have to take that off and transfer it over. But this doesn't line up really at all as to where it goes, so I don't know. I'm gonna see what I gotta do here to make this work. Alright, so I just went ahead and fitted it in the car. It works fine. It looks like it'll bolt up fine and everything. Just a couple things I was looking at is the manual one, the drive shaft carrier bracket. It's kind of like part of the carrier here, as opposed to on this or an S13 on the automatic one here. It had a bracket. Same with the S13 one. They'd have a couple of brackets that go around it, but it looks like it should bolt up fine. I'm looking up to see if I can find like R32 support brackets, and nothing comes up. So I'm thinking we're okay there. Only one other thing that is somewhat concerning is the transmission that I got. Both of them, they were used on swapped S13s, so they had the little dust cover on the back of the transmission. Looked a lot like this originally, maybe a little bit shorter. They came with those originally from the factory, but to fit them into S13s, people take those off. Problem I see now is the drive shaft doesn't go all the way in to sit flush. It goes into like here because of that, without that thing there, and this part of it remains exposed. I'm not sure if that's going to be an issue, but I don't think it will, because otherwise that thing was just really a dust shield. So I don't think it'll be an issue, but I'm just going to keep an eye on it, make sure I don't lose fluid out of there or anything like that. Otherwise I may have to source one of those, but it looks like it's ready to bolt in, so I'm going to go ahead and get it in there. Alright, so I got the drive shaft in. Here's the back 4 bolts, nut and bolt combos. They're 14 millimeters. I put thread locker on those. You can see I got this little bracket back on there, and I got the carrier bearing bolted up right next to it. I'm pretty sure they're different spots where they bolt up, because I swear back here is where the carrier for the automatic bolted up, but the manual one goes up here. I assumed they'd be in the same spot like an S13, but apparently not. Not a huge deal. It just kind of threw me for a loop for a second, because when I was looking at the drive shafts, they were in different spots, and I was thinking, oh, there's no way this is going to work. But so I went ahead and fitted it in there, and it worked. So yeah, so we should be good. Alright, so we did have some fluid in there, so it's a good thing I removed the drain plug. Not much, looks like maybe a couple quarts. I couldn't get the filler one loose, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill it from the shifter hole, since that part is the part currently anyways, and I'll just do the the right amount. I've done that before in the past, because I've had this on my 240SXs where they don't want to crack loose, and I don't want to really push it. I really should have cracked this loose while the transmission was out of the car, but truth be told, I didn't really think about it. So yeah, I'm going to let this drain, and then I'm going to tighten that back up and go ahead and fill it up. Alright, so I'm filling it up. I took the cap off of these things because it'll go a lot faster. You just gotta be really careful not to spill any of this stuff in your interior because it smells terrible. I did that in my S13, I had to clean the heck out of it to get the smell out. And then one other thing I'm doing is changing out the shifter bushing because you can see it's non-existent. It's sort of an OEM replacement one for a 240SX. It's the same thing off of eBay. So I'm going to cut what's left of the old one right there, and then this will just pop right on, just clips right in, so really not much to see. Alright, so I went ahead and got the shifter bushing on there. Took a little bit of work. I couldn't put it in by hand, so I set it up like this, put the shifter into there, and then tapped the top of it with a hammer, and it popped right in. You hear a nice little pop, and then it went in. So we're ready to reinstall this now that we have the transmission filled up. Alright, so got it all filled up, got the shifter in, new shifter bushing. I got a shift knob on here for right now. I don't have this stuff in because I'll be changing out the radio soon here. Probably after I make sure this is good to go. So, I mean, it's still floppy, but it's not as bad as no bushing, but it's no short throw feel or anything like that. So, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and hook the battery back up, fire it up, and let's see if the rear wheels want to move. Alright, so I should state one thing that just came up across. I went to take my key out, and the key wouldn't come out. So I did a little bit of research, and I looked up, if you pop off the cover there, you can see that little red thing right there. I had to pop that over to the left. I think it's because of how the shifter was previously when I left it. Before I removed it, it must have been stuck in the gear or whatever. So that little thing right there, I had to push over to the left. It looks like it stays where it is now, but I'm going to have to remember that in case I have issues down the line with this. I might end up having to open it up and gut that mechanism or something. Not a big deal, but just something I came across, figured I would mention. Alright, and here's what we end up looking like inside. Currently, I don't have the shift boot there because I bought a boot, but the shift boot trim seems to be somewhat unobtainium. It's very hard to find just that. I didn't know that until after I bought the boot because the boot showed a picture with the shifter, or with the trim, so that kind of sucks. I might trim my factory automatic one for that, I'll see. But here is how the pedals end up sitting. Clearly much better position. I still have the automatic brake pedal, but that doesn't bother me at all. Spacing wise and everything like that seems fine. When I changed over from the S13 clutch pedal to the R32 clutch pedal assembly, I did have to adjust the release point because it ended up being way off from where I had it. So, keep that in mind. But the S13 clutch master still worked fine, so we were good there. Still got the automatic indicator thing there. I'm gonna go ahead and I don't know what I'm gonna do there. Maybe just black it out or something, or find a manual one, but stuff like that's hard to find and people want a lot for them. Alright, so now it's about 8 months later. The swap went well. It's been driving just fine. I haven't had any issues with it. I've had a couple little issues, pretty minor ones, but one of the first things that came up was I was getting an exhaust smell, and that ended up being the shift boot, like rubber boot that goes over top from the over top of the shifter. So that was a pretty quick fix. I also did end up finding an R32 clutch pedal, which sits a lot better than what you saw in the video. Only issue really that's kind of annoying with the car since doing the swap is that the clutch I went with is a bit more aggressive than I would like. It actually chatters quite a bit. After a summer of driving, it has gotten better, so it's broken in a little better, but it's a little too chattery for my liking, so just keep that in mind. I use the XTD Stage 3, I believe, and it's a sprung clutch. It's not an unsprung one, so I was hoping it'd be a little more forgiving, but clearly it wasn't. Other than that, the car's been driving fine. I more or less half-time daily drove this in the summer. It drives great and everything like that. It's got a little bit more vibration than I'd like from the solid trans mount, so I'm still going to change that out. I believe I can use an S13 one for that. But other than that, the car's been fine. I haven't had to take it apart yet or anything like that. So yeah, it's pretty much it. It's a relatively straightforward swap if you've done this before. I've done it on an S13 years back, and it was basically identical process, more or less. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that I didn't come across in the video that could be helpful for you, just leave me a comment down below, and then I'll do my best to answer it.